Ever wish you could just like download a new language, straight to your brain?
Oh, yeah.
Me too. But while we're waiting to like that tech to arrive, we've got some really cool real-world solutions to look at
All
today.
right.
So today we are going to dive deep into the secrets of polyglots.
Okay.
Those people who just, effortlessly speak like a zillion languages.
Yeah.
And specifically, we've got a video from a polyglot who actually used to struggle with English.
Wow.
Yeah, people have a hard time believing it now. But they lay out this super detailed 7-step method that they say helped them get fluent. So,
Well, what's really interesting to me about this is that it makes language learning seem possible for anyone.
right.
It shows that anybody, even someone who initially struggled, can become fluent with the right approach. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so exciting.
Yeah.
We're going to break down each step, figure out the why behind it, and see how it can apply to your own language learning journey.
Okay, so step 1 is a little bit of a curveball.
Okay.
It actually suggests starting by watching shows or movies with captions, but in your native language. Now, I don't know about you, but like every language learning course I've ever seen says to jump right into the foreign language.
Right into it, yeah.
So this feels kind of backwards?
Yeah, it does. And that's what makes it so brilliant.
Okay.
Think about it when you're first starting out. Just like the huge number of new sounds and words can be so overwhelming.
Yeah.
This approach kind of eases you in your absorbing the rhythm and the cadence, the natural flow of the language without the pressure of trying to understand like every single word. It's like, dipping your toes in the water before jumping in the pool.
So it's more about creating a comfortable, enjoyable experience
Yes.
than like forcing yourself to study.
Yeah.
I could see how that would be appealing.
Yeah.
I remember trying to learn Italian with a textbook, and it just felt like a chore.
Yeah.
But then I found this hilarious Italian sitcom,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly I was hooked.
Yeah.
I actually looked forward to like studying.
Exactly. And when you enjoy the process,
Mm-hmm.
you're way more likely to stick with it. This step uses that like internal motivation,
Mm-hmm.
making language learning feel less like work and more like, watching your favorite show.
Right, exactly. All right, so we've dipped our toes in with those native language captions.
Yeah.
What's next in this plan?
So step 2 is where it gets interesting. You're going to rewatch the same content, but this time no captions at all.
Oh, okay.
I know what you're thinking.
What am I thinking?
Wait, won't I be totally lost?
Yeah.
But trust me.
Okay, I'm willing to try it, but I'm a little skeptical.
Okay.
I mean, I rely on subtitles all the time, even for shows in English.
And that's exactly why this step is so important.
Okay.
Subtitles, even in your target language, can be like a crutch.
Yeah.
They overload your brain with visual information.
Right.
And you're not fully engaging with what you're hearing.
Oh.
It's kind of like multitasking. You're not really giving your full attention to either task.
So by removing the subtitles, we're forcing our brains to actually work to hear those sounds.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the important thing is that you don't need to understand everything at this point.
Okay.
Even if you only catch a few words or phrases, that's a win.
Really?
Yeah, you're training your ears to get used to the sounds and patterns of the language. You're setting yourself up to understand more later.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Good.
So we've prepared with the native language captions.
Oh, yes.
We took the plunge into subtitle-free watching.
That's right.
What's the next step in this polyglot strategy?
Well, step 3 is where we really start to fine-tune those listening skills.
Okay.
You're going to listen to short clips from the content, like just one sentence at a time, and write down what you hear.
Okay.
And before you freak out thinking you need perfect spelling, even phonetic scribbles are totally fine.
Oh, okay.
It's about capturing those sounds, not like winning a spelling bee.
Right. This reminds me of when I was a kid learning to read.
Uh-huh.
We would sound out those letters, try to make sense of the word, and then eventually it would click.
Right.
So this is kind of like applying that to listening.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
By breaking down the language into smaller, more manageable pieces and focusing on individual sounds,
Yeah.
you're basically training your brain to decode the spoken language.
Wow.
It's like learning the building blocks of the language, one sound at a time.
And this polyglot called this their #1 listening exercise. The
Yes.
one that really
They have a difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's a simple but powerful technique that forces you to really engage with the language,
Right.
on a deeper level.
Yeah, it's not passive listening anymore. You're really working to decode those sounds and make sense of them.
That's right.
So we've prepared with the native language captions.
Right.
Then we took the plunge into the subtitle free watching.
Yes.
And we've honed our listening skills with these exercises.
Right.
So where do we go from here?
Step 4 is where things get really comprehensive, But it's also where you start to see some serious payoff.
Okay.
You're going to go back to the same content this time with English captions and use it for listening, reading, speaking, and writing practice.
Whoa, hold on. We're tackling all 4 language skills at once?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty intense.
It might seem that way, but this multi-pronged approach is really effective.
Okay.
You're basically immersing yourself in the language and reinforcing your learning on like multiple levels.
Wow.
The polyglot breaks it down into 5 sub-steps.
Okay.
First, you listen and read at the same time, letting your brain connect the spoken and written forms.
Okay.
Then you look up any unfamiliar words or grammar, filling in those knowledge gaps.
So we're actively building our vocabulary and understanding of grammar as we go.
Exactly.
Cool.
Then you practice speaking the phrases out loud, mimicking how the native speakers say them.
Okay.
And then you write the phrases down, copying from the captions to really cement those words and structures in your memory.
Gotcha.
And finally, you repeat this whole process 3 times, making sure that the information really sticks.
I'll admit that sounds like a lot of work,
It is.
but I can see how it would help you understand and remember the language so much better.
Yeah, you're really embedding it in your brain.
This polyglot had a pretty big aha moment after working through an entire season of Lost using this method.
Oh, wow.
They rewatched the whole thing without subtitles
No subtitles.
and understood almost everything.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
It is, and it shows how well this approach works. It's about going deep, really immersing yourself in the language instead of just like skimming the surface. And the rewards are huge. You're not just learning vocabulary and grammar. You're developing a real understanding of the language, its nuances, how it flows.
Okay, I'm sold. Sign me up for step 4.
Great.
But after all of that hard work, what's next?
Well,
Do we get a break, maybe a vacation to a country that speaks the language?
a vacation's always a good idea, but for step 5, we're going to keep this momentum going and create like a personal audio library for daily exposure.
Okay.
This is where we use the ideas of spaced repetition and active recall.
Okay, before we get into that, can you remind me what spaced repetition and active recall are?
Sure.
I feel like I've heard those terms before, but I'm a little fuzzy on like what they actually mean.
Okay, so spaced repetition is all about reviewing material at longer and longer intervals.
Okay.
So instead of cramming a bunch of vocab words into your brain all at once and then forgetting them,
Right.
you space out those reviews over time,
Okay.
gradually increasing the time between them.
Yeah.
This helps to really solidify that information in your long-term memory.
So it's kind of like building a muscle. You don't lift the heaviest weight on your first day at the gym.
Right.
You slowly increase the weight and the reps as you get stronger.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
So now active recall is all about actively trying to remember information from your memory instead of just passively reviewing it.
Okay.
So instead of just rereading your notes or listening to a recording, you force your brain to work harder to recall that information.
So instead of the staring at flashcards, we're really trying to remember the info before we flip them over.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And this active retrieval process is much more effective for long-term learning than passive review.
Okay, so back to this personal audio library and how it all fits together.
Yeah.
Walk me through it.
The idea is to make flashcards with the English phrase on one side and your target language translation on the other.
Okay.
But here's the key. You'll also include an audio clip of the phrase spoken by a native speaker.
I love that. So we're not just reading the word, we're also hearing it pronounced correctly.
Yes, and by using spaced repetition and active recall,
Okay.
you'll review these flashcards at these increasing intervals, forcing your brain to actively remember the information and making it stick in your memory.
This step seems much less intense than the previous one.
Yeah.
But I can see how it would be really effective for like maintaining and building on those language skills.
Right. It's like the cool down after a workout.
Right.
You could say that.
Okay.
It's about making language learning part of your daily routine in a way that feels doable and, dare I say, even enjoyable.
All right, so we've primed our ears, we tackled the subtitle, free watching, we've honed our listening skills, we mastered all 4 language skills, and we've built this personal audio library for daily exposure.
That's right.
What's next?
Well, step 6 focuses on pronunciation, which is often a big challenge for people learning languages. And this polyglot stresses that you don't need a fancy tutor or language partner for this step.
Okay.
Just mimic the native speakers you're already listening to.
Wait, just mimic, like parrot backs what I hear?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm brave enough to do that.
It might feel a little silly at first,
Yeah.
but it's so effective. Think about how kids learn language naturally. They pick up sounds, tones, and inflections just through being around it and imitating.
Right.
They're not afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, to try things out.
So we're tapping into our inner child, channeling that like fearless language learning. It's
Exactly.
okay. I like.
Mimicry lets you train your mouth and vocal cords to make the sounds of the language in a real way.
Okay.
You're not just learning the words, you're learning how to like embody them, how to make them your own.
It's almost like we're becoming actors,
Uh-huh.
embodying these characters.
Yes.
And speaking their language authentically.
That's a great way to think about it. You're not just learning a language, you're learning to live in it.
Okay, after all of this work, we must be getting close to the end of this language learning journey.
We are.
What's the final step?
Step 7 is like deceptively simple, but it might be the most important one.
Okay.
Watch the content again.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, just for fun.
Wait, really? After all that studying and practice, we just get to chill and watch?
I know, right? It might sound kind of weird, but this step is all about like enjoying what you've accomplished.
Okay.
Remember how we started this whole thing watching with those native language captions?
Yeah.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
We've come full circle now. You've learned the skills and you understand enough to enjoy this stuff in a whole new way.
Right.
You're not struggling to understand the words or get the meaning anymore. You're experiencing it. You're engaging with it. You're enjoying it.
I like that. It's like finally getting to the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
You can breathe and enjoy the view and really see how far you've come.
Exactly. And that feeling of accomplishment, that joy of understanding, that's what keeps you going. It makes you want to explore new content and have those real-world conversations you've been working towards.
This whole process has been eye-opening. It's not about finding some magic trick or cramming words into your brain.
Right.
It's about approaching language learning strategically, making it fun and something you can stick with. And in the end, it's about being able to connect with the world in a new way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And for our listeners out there who want to start their own language learning journey, let's go over those 7 steps one more time.
Okay, so step 1, start by watching your favorite shows or movies with captions in your native language.
Right.
Just relax, enjoy it, and let your brain absorb all those sounds and rhythms.
Step 2, ditch those captions and rewatch.
Okay.
It might be tough at first, but trust the process. You're training your ears to work harder and pick up on the little things in how people speak.
Step 3, listen to short clips just one sentence at a time.
Right.
And write down what you hear. Don't stress about spelling perfectly. Just get those sounds down.
Step 4, go back to the same content, this time with English captions, and use it to practice listening, reading, speaking, and writing.
All 4 at once.
Yes.
Okay, step 5, build that personal audio library with flashcards that have the English phrase, the translation, and an audio clip.
Yeah.
Use those flashcards with spaced repetition and active recall to make those words and phrases stick in your memory for good.
Step 6, mimic those native speakers. Let loose and experiment with those sounds, tones, and inflections. You'll be surprised how much your pronunciation improves.
And finally, step 7, rewatch just for fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy your progress, notice all the details of the language, and really feel the joy of understanding it.
And here's one last thing to think about as you start this journey. Fluency isn't something that happens overnight. It's a journey you build step by step, show by show, conversation by conversation. Enjoy the challenges, celebrate the wins, and appreciate every little aha moment along the way.
So what language are you going to unlock? Think of all the possibilities when you open yourself up to a world of new connections, new experiences, and new ways of seeing things. Happy learning, everyone.